Nirbhaya case is one example.
I actually read about your burst on the GB road.
Become informants of the police.
Everybody portrays, like you have this thing. It is not the women that you should feel challenged about. A website has been created which is called www.cybercrime.gov.in, where I can also say that I don't want my identity to be revealed. If you're on the other side, you'll never work closely. So
Being a police officer doesn't mean you have to emulate machismo to show your strength. Inner steel is more important, and women have lots of it. We are here with none other than Mrs. Chhaya Sharma today, the first woman South Delhi Deputy Police Commissioner. She has guided her officers to treat victims with the utmost respect and dignity, regardless of their background. Today, she serves as the Inspector General of Delhi Police, a position befitting a lifelong guardian of human rights. Welcome, ma'am. So I would like to pass the mic to Kushagra for the first question.
Ma'am, can you share any particular incident in your career which has been a turning point for you as an IPS officer?
actually, when I was training in Delhi and I was posted as SHO of Kamla Market, so I think the first turning point in my life as in a career as IPS officer was that I went on a patrolling to a particular beat, which was in the red light area. And at that time, I was not very well aware of what a red light area consists of. And, one girl came and she banged into me and suddenly I was, exposed to a whole world of trafficking and sexual exploitation of women. And when I interacted with that girl, when a lot of people prevented me from interacting with her, and I was not being able to understand that why they're not allowing the girl to speak to me. But eventually I got my way through being an officer and I, spoke to the girl singly. So when I heard what she's been going through, I then later rescued one of her friends also and rescued her also. That was a big turning point in my life because of the first time I realized that there are so many women across the world who have been trafficked and are being sexually exploited and are people who need the help of police. And, they are part of an organized crime racket and, usually there's a nexus. So in one way or the other, they get caught. And then, they are usually women who are coming from faraway places, not local women. So what happens is that jurisdiction also prevents, one police officer to go to another police officer and, conduct raids, etc. Information gathering also becomes a problem. So that was a big turning point because I suddenly realized that it was really important for me to, handle such things with quickly in my career.
So, ma'am, I actually read about your burst on the GB road. And I've read that there are a lot of Nepali girls and Northwestern girls over there. So, how do they enter India and how do they end up, getting into GB Nagar and the brothels there?
See, there is a whole nexus, basically. Now it's gone pretty, I don't think it is that heavy like it was in 2001 when I was a trainee officer. But what is happening is that there is a constant trafficking happening and India is a hotspot in terms of, if you look up the internet or you see any kind of UN reports, they will explain how, women who are from any place, for example, not just the, Nepal, but even our area, our country, a lot of pockets where economically and socially weaker sections are staying. So they are forced to send their daughters away. Or sometimes, there are traffickers who identify vulnerable women and who identify that they can be picked up and they can be, they become like their boyfriends and, then they try to wean them away. All of them are in that younger age group. They elope with the boy thinking of they would have a beautiful future and all. But they land up here in the trafficking net because the guy eventually comes and sells the girl over here. And then once she's caught in the trap, it is very difficult for her to leave because now what kind of a story will she go back and tell? And there are lots of other, things preventing her from escaping that nexus. So what happens is that she gets trapped, and then this cycle of exploitation and re-exploitation continues, and then she starts to accept it as a fate. So once she does that, the energy level to stand up against her perpetrators is not there. So until unless there is an exogenous stimulus which provokes her to take a stand, because what happens is in ITPA, if you read the ITPA, most of the sections are available. So unless this victim herself comes across and says, ki, yeah, I have been victimized, and gives a statement against them, then you're able to put sections like wrongful restraint, like hurt, like rape, like gang rape, or whatever. But if she doesn't come up and say that, and she says, okay, I mean, my house back in the village is being run because I'm sending the money back, and then she has no other source of income, and she realizes that even if she's rescued by the police and freed from this, she might have to come back. So if that, if you look at it from the recidivism point of view, and no social, no let up, what is her economic situation going to improve when she goes back? So if those, in absence of such stable economic options available with her, they tend to languish, and they tend to not take up a stand. So, but I was fortunate. I met a few girls who wanted to run away from there, and who wanted to, so it began that trend where women wanted to be rescued, and I was available, and it was happened. I don't know whether and the action against the owners and the managers was very strict. I think it also happened because I was very new in the service, and I was a bold officer, and once first raid got successful, I became confident, and other raids become even more successful. And the women who I rescued, a large number were minors, so they were able to give me statements which, starting from how they were kidnapped and maybe drugged or whatever, and how. So it made our FIR more victim oriented and more stronger. And then when it is victim oriented and stronger, and not as if police is giving the the suo moto action, then it is like her versus them, and then we can support her in a better way. So that was, I think, a big change that we were able to bring.
Yeah, true. That's true. Okay. So are you done with the question? Okay. So I'll take the next question. So ma'am, we feel that there are a lot of common misconceptions with the people. So according to you, like you're on the other end of the spectrum, what are some common misconceptions that people have about the law enforcement, and like how can we as students or even aspiring officers better understand the realities of the job?
So you're talking of which job? You're talking about job as a lawyer, or you're talking about job as a police officer? So if you're talking about, say, job as a police officer and law enforcement, the misconception is that 90% of people think that everything is possible for police, which is not true. We're as human as anybody else, and we don't have two antennas. We don't have all the information in the world. And when people approach us, they come to us with a lot of hope. So we have a lot of responsibility. And but with hope and responsibility also comes the duty that we have to give. To be able to do justice to their request. Now, sometimes what happens is there are domestic violence incidences, or there are instances of crime against women, where we try to do a facilitative role, where we're trying to make the two parties sit down and talk it out, and try to play a role of not a marriage breaker but a marriage maker. But it sometimes doesn't work, and we are seen in bad light from either which side. So whichever side you take, the other side will think, oh, police ne to paise kha liye honge unse. So it's like a general thing. So even if you are being fair, there is a tendency of you being the police being looked into it from a different this thing. So we are in a position where it's not that we can make everybody happy. So we cannot play the role of a politician. We have to make sure that if you are favoring one person, the other person will feel aggrieved. So this is a big challenge, and in whichever case you may take, I'm just taking in one example. For example, in say cases like molestation for women, a girl says उसने ऐसे कर दिया, मेरे को छेड़ा, ये करा, वो करा. The party of the boys side feel अरे लड़का है, young है, छोटा है, give him a chance. So all these things, if one can view them differently. Now, sometimes these are available, you all know. But what does the victim party think? They think अगर पुलिस ने पकड़ लिया तो उसको जूते भी मारो, अंदर भी बंद करो, which is not possible. And in today's world, when everywhere there's a CCTV camera, there is camera in our premises, there are cameras all over. People are carrying handy cams and smartphones. It's not possible to beat up people, but this is the expectation. So there is always this gap between the expected role of police and what we are able to deliver. Now you can take each of the category of crimes, and you can then from each category of crimes say ki bhai, in each what is the role of the police. It should take a heinous offense, something like what happened in case of a dacoity, rape or robbery. There is sometimes when media sensationalizes it, and the crowd expectation, the public expectation, the media expectation is ki 9 minutes mein solve karo. And you all know that heinous cases gives us 90 days. अब आप मुझे बताओ कि 90 days में मुझे first charge sheet file करनी है. What's the hurry? But they all wanted quick detection, quick this thing. So if suppose police sometimes takes a little longer to identify the correct suspects and do a proper investigation into the matter, and sometimes things are a little complicated. One needs to understand the nuances. That time is not available to us. So that time we try to bring a team and we try to this thing. So whoever are able to deliver in that pressure get successful. Sometimes you're not able to deliver, then you get all the brickbats. So it is complicated. So I hope I've made a point.
I believe the role of media is highlighted here. So I would like to ask about media trials. Like that is something that all of us have seen. So we understand that media sometimes it acts as a friend or other times it acts as a foe. So like the Nirbhaya case is one example that all of us are, well aware with. Yes. So what according to you was the role of the media in the said case? And where did it turn sour? If it did turn sour?
See, it didn't turn sour. My experience with media was that it is a like your best friend when you're happy times. And when the times turn bad, so they just say, oh, ma'am, we are doing our job. So it's okay. Like, you have to accept media with that pinch of salt or a bag full of salt. And you have to accept that they are doing their role in whichever, situation you are. Now, the responsibility cast upon you is that how you handle yourself, knowing very well how media will react. So what you will do, if you are following the rule, if you are being fair, if you are doing the things, meticulously, diligently, and in the right manner, you are not doing any human rights violation, and you are still delivering, you serve the purpose. Technically, we all are not answerable to the media. Technically, we sometimes hold press conferences and we share information so that there is no rumor mongering, so that people are assuaged and they understand, acha haan, case solve ho gaya, bande pakde gaye. So that, that information release gives some sort of a succor to the, people wanting to do rumor mongering or people wanting to spread wrong messages or sometimes nasty yellow paper journalism, trying to twist information in a manner which is leading to sometimes a communal riot or sometimes, a kind of a situation where it is boiling and that information is not being let up. So when police gives a statement and says कि हमने पकड़ लिए हैं या ये उसमें हमने definitive action ले लिया है and we have followed the rule of law and we have been fair and this is the strategy and your previous credibility कि आप मतलब पिछले 10 साल से डिलीवर करते आ रहे हो, सच बोलते आ रहे हो, तो मीडिया को समझ आता है कि ये जो बोल रहे हैं वो सच बोल रहे हैं और जितना नहीं बताना चाहते हैं वो नहीं बताएंगे. Whereas I'm not bound to. So like we have to be careful in handling the media where we don't share the victims' names when women are involved, where children are involved, where they can be a vulnerable section of the society. We have to be very careful in terms of not sharing the kind of injuries which a victim has received because it may sensationalize the case further. So how by giving sharing the minimum amount of information about a case we are able to deliver is what is the art of handling media. And I think I was able to successfully handle the media. Then it is media's role to go bonkers and to one guy would want to sensationalize and publish a particular news like they did about the juvenile. Then I had to go and defend myself in the commission later because even the judges came to know about it. They said, oh, why was the juvenile So I was able to defend in the sense that, see, the law of the land says that on that particular day he was a juvenile. So if he was a juvenile and that particular law of the land treated a juvenile in a particular manner, like he had to be, it cannot be in a retrospective effect. So so in that way, and what is the rule that one has to follow in determining the age and how a juvenile has to be handled, if that we have followed correctly, then it is better. And my answer was also bordering on this fact that, see, by accepting the fact that he's a juvenile and going ahead with it, I was able to portray that the 80% or 90% amount of other work which I have done is also honest. अगर मैं यहाँ झूठ बोलती तो लगता कि ये तो सारा ही केस झूठ है, फिर कोई किसी पे बिलीव नहीं करता. So all the hard work that you do, it may be a difficult and long task. It will be arduous, and you understand that you all are lawyers, that catching a criminal is just the first step. It is the long legal battle, which is a much bigger test to pass, and much bigger, people pulling your the carpet under you is there. And that success is more important to me, where you have to depend on scientific evidence and you have to be very meticulous about collecting evidence and piecing it together. So if you focus on that and let the media do their job.
Okay, you're doing your job, let them. Exactly.
So, ma'am, you have talked about the friend part of media. It can also act as a foe, right? Like the major form of media is also movies. And sometimes there have been movies which glorifies the criminal side. So, ma'am, you've been in the first contact with criminals. Have you ever encountered such case कि हम लोग ऐसे करके movies देखा तो it looked cool and all?
Yeah, I mean, so there are a lot of guys when you catch and they'll say कि I copied this stunt from this modus operandi from that movie, or I like that. But so that extent, but I wouldn't blame the media, because their job is to sensationalize, their job is to portray in a dramatic and a more manner which is more dramatic. But it's for us, the society, to understand that this is story, this is real work, and what is real life. And that, when we talk to our children, when we talk to the vulnerable sections, we should explain that, see, उस पे picture में दिखाई वाली बात एक चीज है and reality हमारी life की ये है. And if that, that explaining the society does, or the understanding the society has, then it doesn't matter what you show. And like we keep telling everybody, like everybody portrays, like you have the Singham.
That's the example that is coming to my mind.
So when Singham comes to life, it is like you eulogize as a person, who would be, portraying the police in a particular manner, and wo thane mein jata hai and people will be flying out. I can't imagine myself doing that. So point is that that is a way they perceive it and they're trying to show it. But honestly, when movies like Delhi Crime were made, you saw the real parts, like how actually they work. And this is the fact that most of our inspectors wouldn't be throwing around people, and they would be making life difficult for the criminals through a lot of paperwork, through a lot of collecting information and making sure that they are put behind bars, and cancellation of bails and makokas and detentive those acts which can increase preventive detention. So all these things are looked into from that perspective. So we don't need to use brawn, we have enough brains, I think.
मैम, आपने जैसे कहा कि क्राइम में ये नेक्सस होता है, बच्चे ट्रैप हो जाते हैं. So speaking of juveniles, do you think it was right that in Nirbhaya case, the juvenile who was, exempted and under the pretext that he was a juvenile? And do you think there's some sort of hope for juveniles and some sort of rehabilitation, that they would fix their wrongs and would get back onto the society in a normal society?
So first of all, as a police officer, I can't say what is right and wrong. I have to simply follow the rule of law. So that time the rule of law particularly said that if a person looks like a juvenile, appears to be a juvenile, and he himself says that I'm a juvenile, you accept it, get it verified, and if he falls even 1 month less than the criteria, treat him like a juvenile. And there is a very clear-cut way on defined in the law how rules have been set by various orders of the High Court and the Supreme Court, where it's very clearly mentioned how you will treat a juvenile. Now, the entire concept of juvenile delinquency and how juveniles need to be treated has been really thought about. A lot of NGOs have worked very hard on it, and there are people who are still working on how the juveniles do not languish in jails, and they should be sent to homes where they can be scope for improvement. So my opinion is very clear that there is a large part of juveniles now being involved in crime. And most of the adults understand that if a juvenile is involved in crime, he will have lesser punishment. They also understand that. And there is this age group of 15 to 18, which is very active. And because of their socioeconomic status, and maybe, their family not taking good care of them, or, not guiding them properly, they will get into crime much easier than other children from maybe like our society. So having that thing that you will continuously have to have the have-nots and this thing, there's always a society में relative deprivation. उसके पास better phone है, उसके पास better bike है, उसके पास better, so that relative deprivation keeps attracting the juveniles who do not know the hard way or the correct way of getting there, but they know the shorter way of getting there. And for them, it is the 20-minute thrill of doing a joyride and taking somebody's bike and having a joyride, much more thrilling than working hard, and like you guys are working hard and probably owning your own vehicle. The thrill of owning your own vehicle later is going to be. So now all this is about how the society perceives what they should do with their juveniles. And for me, it is like a more sociological issue where a society should take care of this. So we have this Yuva, community policing thing in Delhi, where what we're trying to do is that we're targeting these young adults, the juveniles, where we are trying to bring them in the the area where we're trying to give them vocational training in various things, like whatever they like. And it could be like driving, or it could be like something else, like makeup artist or anything under the sun. So we have a 21 list of vocations, and they could be even trained as in the hospitality industry. So once they're trained, they can get a job. So we are also now involving training partners who are promising that after we train them, either they become startup guys, or they actually get a job somewhere. So this has been like, we've had Yuva phase 1. Now we're about 10,000 children enrolled in. And we have more. So these schemes are continuously going. So we are targeting people who are economically backward, who are like first-time juvenile delinquents, who can be weaned away from this thing and given an opportunity. It's a totally free training which is being given. The ministry is paying for it. And we are also part of it because we are facilitating in police stations, the area, the place where they will do, how they come and go, what exams they give, everything. So I'm talking of, if you wanted my view on juvenile delinquency, I think this is a nicer way of, handling this. And there's a lot of people who are contributing to a lot of NGOs who are working in the field of juvenile delinquency, where they're trying to wean children off and trying to work on, through corporate social responsibility. They're trying to give them jobs. They're trying to ensure that they are, given sensible jobs. उनको मजा आए, वो काम में उसमें दिमाग लगाए, ना कि अपने गलत पाथ की तरफ बढ़ें. तो वो चीजें आई थिंक सोसाइटी ज्यादा लोग करने लगे, तो probably it will have a better effect. Juveniles getting into crime is like easy thing, na? Because it is a quick thing and it's easy to do and nobody stops you, and then it's a ongoing phenomena. We'll need to do it. The right and the wrong part, I would leave it to the judiciary to decide.
Ma'am, बहुत सारी जगहों पे हम ये सुनते हैं कि most of them become informants of the police, and like sometimes they tend to give information just to save themselves. So is it true that most of them are made informants? No.
Not juveniles.
No, not juvenile in the sense, like other when they.
No, not all criminals.
Okay.
Any criminal who shows any promise of improvement only can be made into this thing. And like for generating more information into the more, the who's doing what, there are times that one has to tip off informers and have people in the crime world. They need not be criminals also. They can be relatives of the criminals. There can be some friends who want their friend to improve. So they can be different people. So one cannot, put it in a bracket and say कि ऐसे ही लोग होते हैं.
Like there were two shows, I guess. One was a Gujarati boy. that came to Delhi and fell into a trap. And I read that he then became an informant and started working with the police. And then there is, I think, Lucky, the famous chore, on which the movie Oi Lucky Lucky was. So, ma'am, उनकी जो मतलब मूवी है ओए लकी लकी उसमें जो दिखाया वो एक्चुअली सच था.
To the large extent it was true, but to that extent इतना true भी नहीं था कि जो last part आप बोलो कि वो informant बन गया, वो वाला part नहीं था. But yes, the initial part and how he was caught, and the same person who was with me in that Nirbhaya case, Mr. Rajinder Yadav, he was there, and he had caught Lucky. So that movie was based on his work. So basically, to some extent was true, but I don't think you can say that it's true for every situation. One-off case which comes in the paper, ये वो तो आप पढ़ लो हो जाता है, but I think आप generalize नहीं कर सकते उसको.
I would like to come back to the vocational scheme जिसकी अभी हम बात कर रहे थे युवा वाली. I believe that is an reformative way of dealing with criminals. So जब हम लोग बैठे थे and like we were talking about this whole podcast ना, तो criminal psychology was a point that was coming again and again, and all of us are very excited to talk about it. So you have interacted with numerous criminals and you must have gained an insight in their psychology. So according to the theories of punishment, do you think that reformation is the correct methodology to use in India?
Again, I will not generalize it. It has to be on a case-to-case basis.
Exactly.
What happens is that some people get into crime because of a particular reason, and they may not want to be wanting to do more crime. So these are the kind of people who can be reformed and can be, is thing. But there are people who are habitual criminals. आप उन्हें कितना ही आप उनको सॉप्स दे लो, आप उनको बेनिफिट्स दिखा दो, पर वो मानेंगे नहीं. They will continue to do it and they will probably make a fool out of you also. So to that extent, one has to understand कि कौन habitual है, कौन इससे बाहर निकलने का, he wants to improve, but his society or his situation in life is not giving him that breather. So that differentiation, once you start doing, then of course it makes a difference. Now, I as a police officer cannot make that discretion. I can only make sure that certain leniency can be shown to a person who wants to improve, or maybe one chance can be given, but not more than that. I can't go to jail and say कि इसको हल्की सजा दे दो, उससे ज़्यादा चक्की पिसवाओ. I can't do that. If you commit the same crime, you get the same punishment as defined by law. But what happens is that if a person who once he goes to an observation home or he goes to a jail, the kind of environment, the kind of people he meets is usually he doesn't land up being reformed. And the environment is, though I've visited jails and I'm sure you have also visited jails, there is a lot of creative activity going on there. So you will find people who are convicts and people who know that they have to spend about 14 years here. This could go into a lot of vocational activities, like some of them are doing very nice gardening. There were people who were working on a loom and making cloth. Sorry. So this keeps going on, but I don't know how it will change their psychology.
Okay. Okay.
But मैम एक intuition तो आता होगा ना कि शायद ये change हो सकता है.
Intuition नहीं आता है, वो आपको लगता है कि maybe this person shows promise, maybe this punishment will improve. But sometimes, it's a little difficult. It's not possible for every time for you to be so bang on कि अच्छा हाँ इसके साथ ऐसे करेंगे तो, because times change, people's thought processes change. 14 साल बाद वो क्या सोचने लग जाता है, वो उस इंसिडेंट से डरा या नहीं डरा, उस पनिशमेंट से, बहुत सारी चीजें होती है. Psychology is very complicated. You can't predict people in normal interactions. तो सोचो क्रिमिनल कैसे प्रेडिक्ट करोगे? और फिर आपसे गलती हो गई तो then it is costing you also.
मैम, स्पीकिंग ऑफ साइकोलॉजी, आपने बहुत ज़्यादा एक स्ट्रेसफुल सिचुएशंस हैंडल करी हैं. फॉर एग्जांपल द निर्भया केस, इट वाज वेरी स्ट्रेसफुल एंड इमोशनली ड्रेनिंग. हाउ डिड यू हैंडल इट? कैसे, मतलब आई जस्ट वांट टू नो योर.
See, a lot of people have asked me this, so it's very easy for me to answer. Two things are very distinct. एक तो I have been always very sincere person as well. I take my job very professionally. So I was very confident that I had professional people working with me. So I will get results. Second thing was that if I'm following the rule of law, if I'm being fair, तो मैं गलती नहीं कर रही. आप विक्टिम के और विक्टिम की फैमिली का ध्यान रख रहे हो और आप कोई ऐसा काम नहीं कर रहे आप जिसमें आपका स्टाफ या आपने कोई ऐसी डायरेक्शन नहीं दे रहे जो गलत है. यू नो लाइक विच इज एक होता है ना नॉर्मल वर्क एंड व्हेन जैसे कि पीपीडब्ल्यू है, जैसे पुलिस प्रैक्टिकल वर्क है, कुछ डिफरेंट है, कुछ अंडर हैंड है, तो आप ऐसे कोई काम ही नहीं कर रहे. फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल डरने की जरूरत नहीं है. सेकेंडली क्योंकि आपने पहले इतने केसेस में मेहनत करी हुई है, सो आपको एसओपी लेके बैठना नहीं पड़ता. आपके दिमाग में वो चलना शुरू हो जाता है. ओके रेप हैज हैपेंड, टक 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 टक, आई हैव टू डू दिस. सो इट इज लाइक यू नो it's like a theorem that you have learned, and the theorem, so I was very confident about the fact that we will be able to solve it. I was only worried that the part which worried me was that हो सकता है कि हम ये बंदे अगर जल्दी नहीं पकड़ेंगे तो ये they will disappear, and then it will be difficult to catch them, and this girl may not survive, and this a boy may take a U-turn. So like a lot of these uncertainties are there. Then the other aspect was that, okay, once we filed the charge sheet and all in 18 days and all, what happens to the legal battle? Because that's a very long way. And you had heard and you probably had seen that they had lawyers who were very vociferous, very attacking. So they were always ready to damage your case. But the good part was even we had a very good legal support. And the kind of PPs we had, the team we had on the panel was very strong. And they were able to counter everything. And in fact, they told me when we had finished the charge sheet and all, and we had put in the charge sheet, they told me that your charge sheet is so strong because of the scientific evidence collected, is that they usually lawyers have to plug holes made by their clients. He says, I just have to stand and present your case. And there will be hardly one or two, areas where I'll have to cover up. So I'm not saying that we were the best team. I'm not saying that we were, on top of everything. But we did our best. And we were professional. So I think when you are professional, like a doctor who's professional or a any other vocation you see, if a dentist you go to is professional, तो आपको दर्द कम होती है. You are more happy going to the person. So I just wanted कि the whole situation, whatever the world may think, whatever the media may think, I'm answerable only to the courts. And I'm answerable to the victim. Yes, true. Because अगर आप victim को आंख में आंख डाल के उसको कोई promise नहीं दे सकते और उस promise को आप hold out नहीं कर सकते, तो then you are useless. So my connect with the family, my connect with Nirbhaya, my connect with the other boy was there. And I think because of that connect, it was they did not give any statement against us, or whatever we advised them and how we are going about the legal process, you would explain to them. तो वो डर एक वहाँ से खत्म हो गया. दूसरा है कि अब मीडिया अगर पगला रही है या अगर और people are attacking you from all sides, they're only alleging.
That's the professional sphere. Like on a personal level, like how did you keep yourself centered throughout the whole process, and like on several different criminal cases, like because हम काफी लोग इनमें से काफी लोग criminal lawyers बनने की वो सोच रहे हैं, तो we'll deal with a lot of cases on a daily basis. तो हम अपने आप को centered कैसे रख सकते हैं?
See, I think थोड़ा तो होता है कि आपको लगता है कि like doctors and even lawyers and even us, we feel that after a while you become a little dehumanized because you keep seeing the underbelly of the society. You keep seeing the, the dirty part of the society and life. You feel like, yaar, what is there? And, when you listen to victims one after the other, you can form a pattern in your mind, and, somewhere your mind starts getting shut up, or you're getting bored, you're thinking same cheese bar aa rahi hai. Or when you see a dead body, there is the same shock which you had first seen a dead body or a post-mortem is not there. So you are in a way dehumanized. So I keep telling myself that, as long that God has given me this job, I have been blessed, and probably God wants me to help people out. So you see, people will never go to, those people come to police who need help, or who are sometimes in dire need of safety of their life and liberty. Sometimes they want to save their assets, और कोई भी रीजन हो सकता है. जब वो बेचारा परेशान होता है तभी वो डॉक्टर के पास जाता है, या हेल्थ होगा, या फिर हमारे पास आएगा जब हमें उसको लगेगा कि पुलिस मेरी मदद कर सकती है. So I keep telling myself that 80% of the job, that the salary that I'm getting and the job that I'm doing is to listen to victims. If you are able to empathize with the victim each time, then you are able to put yourself in the victim's shoes and understand कि उसको कितना परेशानी हो रही होगी, उसको कितना दुख हो रहा होगा, उसका social या उसका जो friend circle है उसको कैसे treat कर रहा होगा because of this incident. So when you start empathizing, you come back to your human self and you start thinking like the person. The crime starts affecting you. Otherwise, the normal tendency is to shield yourself and you say, अच्छा ठीक है मुझे क्या पड़ी है types. तो वो चीज ना, जैसे I was in NHRC also, I was in other areas also, I've worked in India. Every time if you try to relate to the victim, even as lawyers, I would suggest if you relate to the victim, your passion, to help the victim through a legal process increases, and that passion will inspire you. This is one most very inspiring thing that happens with me, that if I connect with the victim.
So, ma'am, most of us, we're gonna be lawyers, obviously. So, like, we're gonna work very closely with the police. So, we know we have gathered, a lawyer's perspective. But what do you, as a police officer, would suggest that what we can do to, coordinate better, to, resonate better, so that we can be on the same page every time? So, like, how can we work closely together?
See, if you're on the other side, you'll never work closely. So we are usually at loggerheads with each other, especially in court. And more often than not, if you're a criminal lawyer, you will probably be citing the criminal, and you will be trying to throw the policeman, tear the policeman's uniform, and say कि तुमने अपना काम ठीक से नहीं करा. You will have to do that, and you have to be making money on that. So that is your part you're doing. All I'm saying is, if you are, whatever you do, if you're professional about it, and once you're out of the court, there is a mutual respect for each other's profession. That should not go away. I mean, ठीक है, आप अपनी लड़ाई लड़ रहे हैं, you are helping your client and everything, but you should understand that what role police has. Because what happens is then when we go and catch a criminal, मैंने कितनी बार मतलब हमने पकड़े, बात करी, उससे बात करा, कई बार हमने we have पीटा भी है. So what happens is they after a while when they have हम recoveries हो गई, सब कुछ हो गया, then we say, okay, come on, let's sit and have a meal together. So we're sitting and having a meal together. So the connect comes back. Now you're sitting and having a meal with a criminal. So then you're treating him like a भाई. चल भाई ठीक है, तूने अब कर दिया, हमारा recovery हो गई. Now you sit like you need to take a break. We also need to take a break. So you interact with them. You ask them about your his family. So what happens is that when you interact with them, you realize कि उस बेचारे की बड़ी परिस्थिति रही होगी, उसने वो क्यों केस किया है क्या, and they understand that it is not personal. Since a lot of people ask me, आपको डर नहीं लगता, आपने इतने cases solve करे, you have no protection. Somebody will come and tell you, listen, if you're not becoming personal, okay, you understand what I mean? Yes, ma'am. Like the person understands, even the criminal should understand कि ये मेरे पीछे क्यों पड़ी है, क्योंकि चोर मैं हूँ, ये पुलिस है. काम है उसका, तो काम तक तो ठीक है भाई, वहां तक तो मैं तुम्हें गाली भी दूंगी, पीटूंगी भी, उल्टा पिटाऊंगी, and I will be like the worst police officer that you've ever met. But the moment my work finishes, I am like a nice human being, and we basically connect on a human level. So what happens is that if you're not being personal, like you're not bringing his mother, sister, and everybody into the picture, you're not harassing his father, you're not doing anything which is beyond the realm of legal framework, then it's okay. You can connect. Similarly, I will say the relationship between a criminal lawyer and a police officer, or the people who help us from our side, it is there. That mutual respect for things must be there. Don't start falling prey to misconceptions, which are generally the order of the day. That will distinguish you from a two pennies lawyer to a guy who is more, erudite. It is, erudite lawyer. So educated, erudite, a competent professional lawyer will use his techniques or his way of putting things or his, how he presents the case rather than going into something very nasty. So, that is professionalism. अब 2 पुलिस वाले हैं, एक ढंग से काम करता है, लीगली आपको बाइंड करता है, दूसरा गाली गलौज करके आपको हड़काता है. So there can be two professional, non-professional way of handling things. Similarly for you guys also there will be a professional way of handling things. There will be a non-professional way of saying, सबको हड़काना, बदतमीज से बोलना, and I'm just because I'm a lawyer and I will have the, so you can misbehave in the court also, and the judges will also get a little uncomfortable. So वो सारी जो चीजें हैं वो ना करके आप कैसे अपनी सेल्फ रिस्पेक्ट, डिग्निटी भी मेंटेन करो, एंड पीपल रिस्पेक्ट यू फॉर दैट. तो ठीक है, आप किसी के अगेंस्ट खड़े हो, बट व्यक्ति विशेष के अगेंस्ट नहीं हो, आप प्रोफेशन के अगेंस्ट नहीं हो. यू नॉट फॉलिंग प्रे टू मिसकंसेप्शंस व्हिच आर जनरली अबाउट पुलिस और अबाउट lawyers. So then it's okay. Why should you have a judgmental or a preconceived notion about anybody?
Ma'am, you have talked about the positive side. We are ready to provide them help, being lawyers, being police, ma'am. But still, there's some hesitance that we could talk, that people, they fear from approaching the police or the lawyers per se. So, ma'am, what could be done to help them to approach the police directly? Like,
hey, babes, from your side, it's a drop in the ocean. Like, from my side, I try to keep telling people to, keep the police image clean, to keep the police image good. Now, I cannot control the 85,000 people who are working for Delhi police, right? Or wherever I go. So, at least from my part, I can keep my desk clean. My drop in the ocean is whoever meets me goes with a good impression of police. So, if that I can do, then that is my contribution. Na? So, as a lawyer, you can make sure that you are respected, you are seen as a professional person, your image is clean. आप उतना ही कर सकते हो. आप घर में अपने भाई बहन को तो कुछ बोल नहीं पाते हो, तो हम बाहर में दुनिया को क्या ठीक करेंगे, right? It seems like a true thing for all of you.
Yes, it's very.
So the issue is that you can't change everybody. But if you understand that you have to be a good person and you have to be a professional person, you conduct yourself nicely. And that's how the image will contribute. So if more people are there who are able to contribute to that image, the nicer the impression is of the general public about you. But like if there are lesser people, then obviously it's a Pareto optimality situation.
So मैम, अभी आपने बताया जैसे कि कभी मारते भी हैं उनको, तो मैम क्या ये फोर्स नेसेसरी होता है कुछ सिचुएशन में?
अब नहीं है, मतलब पहले होता था, अब तो बहुत ज्यादा टेक्निकल चीजें आ गई हैं, साइंटिफिक एविडेंस पे बहुत ज्यादा निर्भर है. बहुत पहले होता था, मैं तो कई बार, मतलब समटाइम्स you might have to give one, a slap or something, or use some brute force. But now it is like when you are able to prove that the person was here or not there by using scientific evidence, or use of DNA or use of other things. If you make them come to face with issues, that what evidence you have and scientific evidence and how you're going to use against him, it is enough to break people down. They understand कि अब तो मुझे प्रूव कर ही देंगे, तो उसमें मारने पीटने की जरूरत ही नहीं पड़ती है. ये तो जब पहले था कि जब हमारे पास बहुत ज़्यादा साइंटिफिक एविडेंस नहीं हुआ करती थी, तो probably people would have been using some kind of brute force. Or sometimes people are, policemen are sometimes very frustrated. अरे यार, मतलब दुखी कर दिया इसने तो, मतलब so they will do something. But this is not justified, not at all. You don't need it to prove anything in the court of law. जो आपको एविडेंस चाहिए वो तो आपको मिल ही गई है, तो वो कितना भी माने ना माने, अगर आप वो कर सकते हैं और आप फॉलो कर रहे हैं एविडेंस एक्ट को ठीक से, तो यू विल प्रूव योर केस.
Little back you talked about falling prey to the crimes. Post-COVID, a lot of things have changed and we've been pushed to the virtual world. So inevitably, the rise in cybercrimes have increased. So what advice would you like to give us about the cybercrimes, and so that we don't fall prey to such crimes?
So see, general things are like you don't share your OTPs, you don't share your private things. There's a lot of sextortion is happening. Somebody will give you a video call and then they will show you the lady will start taking her clothes off, and then suddenly there will be some invisible camera which will be watching your reaction, and then they will try to blackmail you on that. So a lot of these things are happening. On the fear of ki the people, my relatives may not know, or my friends may not know about what I was doing, they start getting blackmailed and they started to give money. So this is one recent thing which is happening. A lot of these women are facing cyber stalking. A lot of these sometimes when you share your personal photos on say Facebook or something else, people can morph it and can misuse it. So there are issues like that. And about Insta, Facebook, the more people, the more users that are there, and there are obviously people who are going to misuse that information which is publicly available. Now, having said that, Delhi police has made a special effort in the last 1 year, and we've opened 15. We also had a central unit, this is called the IFSO, which is based in Dwarka, Sector 19. But we also have opened 15 specific cyber cell police stations. So these cyber cell police stations are those which are operational in districts. So there are 15 districts of 15 cyber police stations, and these cyber police stations have manpower, like the inspector or the sub-inspectors or even the constables who are trained in dealing with cyber crimes. So that is available. Another thing I must tell you as information is that you can, whenever there is you feel that there is a cyber crime that has occurred, or you have to advise somebody, so where they can go and complain. Sometimes people don't know what to do, which police station to approach. So they can always approach to the nearest police station, who will direct them to the cyber police station. And because of it being a specialized unit, the reaction of the officers will be much faster. The response will be much faster. Then there is this, a website has been created which is called www.cybercrime.gov.in. So that is the website where, if suppose I as a female want to give a complaint about, say, cyber stalking or something else which is very personal, or somebody's trying to do sextortion with me and I don't want my name revealed, so they will, there's an option where I can also say that I don't want my identity to be revealed. And you fill up a form. This form will ask you for your address and other things, and for what exactly has happened. If you share a part of what is your exact complaint. So once you fill up that form, you'll get a call back, sometimes from the nearest police station or the nearest cyber police station, and your need will be get addressed. So what happens is that it is done centrally. And it has been a big success because now people, will get a call, details will be asked, and the people start, responding immediately from the police perspective. So I think this much is quite a lot of effort being done for cyber this thing. However, I still think that more training and more number of staff would do, because cybercrime is not going to stop at this. There are going to be more economic frauds also, bigger ones. Sometimes the people using bitcoins and other things are also getting cheated and all. So there are lots of different types of frauds which are happening, which are based using cyber as a tool for committing the offense. And sometimes you all must have seen Jamtara, so those kind of crimes are also there. So these, the vulnerable sections, like the old people, aged persons, new people, new users who are not really comfortable with the use of smartphones get tricked.
And ma'am, we were talking about the details you just mentioned. So ma'am, like before reaching out to the police or filing the complaint on the particular website, what can we do from our end so that it helps the police in the investigation process if, God forbid, a crime has been, cybercrime has been?
So when usually the tendency is for a victim is that when you get a call or something, you want to delete everything. So I think the immediate reaction is you should not delete, get screenshots if possible. Or at least save your phone, because your phone will then become an important evidence, and you have to probably give a 65B certificate also when it is taken. So those things we have to keep track of. If your laptop pe kuch hua hai, probably your laptop will have to be seized and later given to you. But these are important things, because if aapke wahan pe koi cyber crime hua hai, so the instrument which is used for committing that crime, that instrument one should not start deleting, or because you're harassed by it, you should not start removing that evidence, because only that evidence will go on to prove that you were being harassed. Maybe get to block your card or something if you feel that sometimes your Amazon gift cards they will ask. So there are a lot of Chinese apps which are now operational, will start asking who give small loans to people who are vulnerable, who needs, like, they say 2,000 rupees chahiye, 10,000 rupees chahiye, 5,000 rupees chahiye, they will give. And once you're unable to pay them, they will start more contacting all your contacts, morphed pictures of yours will be shared. So, and then they will harass you. Then the person gets so harassed because all the contact details they will have. So that kind of Chinese app and all, one has to be very careful of.
Ma'am, speaking of all these scams, India has a big scam industry and it's very operational in USA. They target the old people and the vulnerable sections of the society. And they seem to have created this nexus बहुत बड़ा कि इसको क्रैकडाउन करने में दिक्कत होती है. तो हम इसको कैसे, इसका सोल्यूशन क्या है?
Which scam you're talking of?
मैम लेट्स से एक स्कैम ये है कि कोई बंदा स्कैम फ़ोन करेगा एंड दे कि आई एम कॉलिंग फ्रॉम दिस डिपार्टमेंट ऑफ पुलिस, यूएसए के रिप्रेजेंट करेंगे, एंड दे लास्ट कि आप हमें इतना फ़ाइन दे दो एंड फिर हम आपका फ़ाइन माफ़ कर देंगे, अरेस्ट माफ़ कर देंगे. ऐसे इस पे स्कैम्स चलते रहते हैं यूएसए पे. एंड उसका क्या है, जैसे इनकी बिल्डिंग्स चल रही होती है, इनकी बिल्डिंग्स होती है, नॉर्मल ऑफिस लगता है, बट दीज आर स्कैम सेंटर्स.
Talking about call center.
या कॉल सेंटर टाइप स्कैम्स. इनका मतलब क्या सोल्यूशन? इनका एक
See, if somebody is running a normal, genuine call center, there is no harm. But the moment a crime occurs, it will be a cyber offense because it is done on the phone or it is done on the internet. The same is being handled by our the cyber cell. So we are raiding such places also where such things are occurring. But in a normal sense, having a call center is not a crime. It's a very, well-defined, work which you can take up and you can do for an external agency. But as long as you're doing a genuine thing. So it's only when, somebody reports a particular crime to us and it has happened from a particular call center, then we can go ahead and raid it and we can stop it.
मैम एक्चुअली विक्टिम तो पर यूएसए में ही होते हैं सारे.
Victim US में कैसे होगा?
मैम एक्चुअली ये क्या करते हैं कि ये यूएस के नंबर्स ले लेते हैं.
Yeah, so we'll have to have somebody reporting to us, na?
Yeah.
Without that, we will not be able to do. So otherwise, it will be the work of the US then to do it, na? So it's when we take care of victims who come to us, who report to us. Now, whether he does it from US or he does it from here is okay with us. They have to report to us. Because if they don't give a complaint to us, then we can't do anything.
In what ways do you think technology has helped law enforcement track down crimes like burglary and auto theft?
See, a lot of CCTVs, for one. The application has been really very helpful. If you have good quality specs, deployed, then burglaries, we have been able to solve a lot of burglaries because we were able to, see that they came in an auto, the auto number got recorded, or sometimes when, they came and they went, their faces were very clear. So sometimes the beat staff were able to recognize, ye to falana jagah ka BC hai. So, like they were able to connect. Then there's face recognition. Then ANPR cameras. So what they're doing is that if any car, sometimes what we're using in ANPR is that those cameras are very specific. They start noting your license plate reader kind of a thing. So what happens is, suppose we see the one vehicle is coming again and again and he's committing the similar kind of crime like snatching or something. So we can put, we have also done geo mapping of all the CCTVs that we have. So what we have, we know that if these, for say in one instance, we know that he's followed a particular route following CCTVs, then we can, in the number of ANPR cameras we have, we can assign this number plate which is coming, and then that ANPR camera will give us a feedback कि वो यहाँ आया इस वजह, and then we can lay a trap कि वो फिर से आ रहा है, so we can lay a trap. So things like that have helped. And say you talked about motor vehicle theft, आजकल GPS लगता है. So what is the MO being used by most of the auto thieves is that they will not take one vehicle at a time. They will steal a vehicle and they will put it in some weird parking lot. So once they have enough number of vehicles, they will slowly take it away. So if our teams, our anti-auto theft teams, what they do is, if they identify a vehicle in a parking lot which is stolen, so they will not pick it up. Because there is nobody to catch also at that point of time. There is no criminal. So they'll attach a GPS device. So when they come to collect it, then they will pick him up. Or they will follow where he's taking it. Maybe they're taking it to cut it in a factory or something. In UP or somewhere else. So those are the things, so you said technology. I've said cameras, face recognition, GPS. And there can be a number of other things.
मैम आपका एक काफी पॉपुलर केस है बैटेड बेबी फलक का, वो मेरे को काफी ज्यादा इंटरेस्टिंग लगता है. तो मैम मैंने उसके बारे में थोड़ा सा पढ़ा था. उसमें आज तक भी वो जो एक टीनेजर आई थी अभी 14 इयर्स की, वो उसने क्लेम किया था कि वो उसकी मम्मी एक्चुअली जो 2 मंथ्स की वो आई थी इन्फेंट. तो मैम उस केस के बारे में मेरे को थोड़ा सा बताइए, मेरे को बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग केस लगता है, मेरा बहुत ज्यादा उसमें वो था.
Yes, one of my favorite cases too. उसमें क्या था कि actually that girl was a juvenile and she'd gotten into this sex trade, and because she ran away from her home and someone misguided her, and then she was one person who was like a pimp only. He was there, he was working, and he was taxing women to clients in like a call girl racket. So he fell in love with her, as he says, and they started staying. He was already married, but this girl fell in love with him, and he was like much older also, and they started staying and taking a house on rent. Now this girl, being a juvenile, did not really know how to spend her time. So she said, "Arey, tum to chale jaate ho, what do I do the whole day?" So this person was used to sit and drink with and play cards with some guys in Bindapur. So Falak had been left behind by her mother and had been, sold off for marriage. And in the gap that, once your marriage gets smoothened up, all your children will be restored to you. That story was given to her. So she had left by that time, and this child was available with this old couple. And this person who was the friend of this lady was known to them. So they were after a while, when the Falak's mother had already gone for some time, they realized that they can do away with the baby, and they can hand over the baby to some children's home. So he said, don't give it away to a children's home. I'll keep the baby and I will foster the baby. So they said, okay, we have no problems. So it was not actually that he was told or anything, but the baby was given to him, and he was wanting to always have a girl child. So he took the girl back to that young juvenile and said कि तुम इसका ध्यान रखो, सोच के कि तुम्हारी बेटी है, and you are still young, so till you become older and we can have our own baby, you take care of this baby. And she's nobody's child. So he did not know that he belonged to Falak's. He did not know Falak's mom or anything. Now, incidentally, what happened was that this boy had to go and meet his own son, was not well in Mumbai, and he had to go there, and he left the juvenile with an infant. Now, what happens is that if you've seen children in this age group of 1 to 3 years old is very naughty or are very active and need more care than normally, because if an infant is there, wo leta rahega. But now they start walking, they're able to stand, they're wobbly. So this child she's one child taking care of another child. So as such, for normal women, it is difficult to handle children who are younger. So this baby Falak was being handled by this girl, and probably she mishandled the child, and in that frustration, she bit the child. She probably hurt the child. The child fell on the floor a couple of times. Usko trauma में आ गई. फिर the child fainted. So घबराहट में she called up that guy. said मैं क्या करूँ? So तुम उसको hospital लेके जाओ. So that's how the child reached the AIIMS trauma center, and that is where a duty constable was very smart, and he said कि तुम तो बच्ची नहीं हो, माँ नहीं हो सकती इस बच्ची की, and he could make her wait. Otherwise, she was giving away the child, and once the doctors see the child in trauma and so much of hurt, they had taken away the child, and she was walking away. But had the duty constable not stopped her, and it was a strange case for us also, because what we had this girl had some missing in another thana, so she had to go back to that place. But उनके तो रिकवरी हो गई जब हमने पता लगाया, और उन्हें बच्चा रिकवर कर लिया, उन्होंने एनजीओ को हैंड ओवर कर दिया. उसने कहा मुझे घर नहीं जाना, उन्होंने एनजीओ को हैंड ओवर कर दिया कोर्ट से परमिशन लेके. बट हमें तो नहीं पता था इस बच्चे की माँ क्या. सो वी वर लेफ्ट विद द बेबी. In our district, we were left with a baby who could not speak, who could not this thing, and who was under trauma, who was in the ICU. And they fondly, I think the nurses who were handling her called her Falak. And that's how the Falak came. And then we were told, how can you register a case? Because there's no complainant. So we then took a very tough stand. We said, no, if a older person with similar injuries had got admitted to the hospital, would we have not registered the case? तो बच्चे की क्या गलती है? इंसान का बच्चा तो है ना. We will register a case. So we put her sections of hurt, and we put sections of 319 or 317, like when a child gets abandoned, and is in a need of care and attention. So that neglect part we put, and we registered a case initially. So we did that so that at least investigation will start. Because if you don't register an FIR, how will you just start the investigation? And that's how we got, running away and started looking for her mother. So it was a very, very, very interesting, almost blind. because this girl never knew who this boy was and know anything about the boy except the boy coming and meeting her and one phone number. So if he had broken the SIM and gone, then it was gone, finished. And this baby, of course, was not telling who the mom was. So finding Falak's mom was a big, huge challenge.
So मैम जैसे अभी आपने बताया कि that head constable, attentiveness and the smartness led to that girl being saved. So ma'am, according to you, what qualities do you think makes a law enforcement officer, stand out or more successful than others?
Now, law enforcement officer can be at various stages. You can have an IPS officer, you can have a sub-inspector, you can have a DYSP, you can have a constable. Anything for a police officer, if you can empathize with your victim and you are following the rule of law, that is professional enough. Because बाकी सब तो common sense है जो हम FIR में लिखते हैं, अपनी तहरीर में लिखते हैं या हम बाद में अपनी केस डायरी में लिखते हैं, which is, if you look at it, is all common sense. Anybody who is not trained also, and if he has common sense, can write all that stuff. But initially, what case to give, who to become the complainant, how do you feel that this is a victim in need of care and attention, that identification and that part of recording the event as a crime or something and then following it up, I think उतने में पुलिस का काम हो जाना चाहिए. बाकी जो एस्पेक्ट है कि वो कितने अच्छे से केस डायरी लिखता है और चार्जशीट बनाता है, उसके लिए तो फिर सुपरवाइजरी ऑफिसर्स भी हैं और वो खुद भी है, तो वो अगर उतना फॉलो कर लेता है, आई थिंक दैट दीज आर द बेसिक क्वालिटीज इफ अ पुलिस ऑफिसर हैज, यू विल स्टैंड आउट एज अ पुलिस ऑफिसर. क्योंकि वो प्रोफेशनलिज्म और अनप्रोफेशनलिज्म में डिफरेंट आ जाता है ना. अब आप इनडिफरेंट होके खड़े हुए हो कि जी मुझे तो कहाँ लगा दिया ड्यूटी पे, मैं आई कीप लुकिंग एट द एट द लैम्प पोस्ट. यू कैन डू दैट ऑल्सो. एंड जो आपको टिक करे बोले आपके पास आए आप, लेकिन यहाँ तो वो खुद गया ना. सो द इनिशिएटिव दैट यू टेक, द इंटरेस्ट दैट यू टेक, द एम्पैथी दैट यू जनरेट इन योरसेल्फ, नोबडी एल्स कैन जनरेट एम्पैथी इन यू, यू हैव टू योरसेल्फ जनरेट इट. तो वो आप कैसे कनेक्ट बैठाते हो वो आपको करेगा. तो जो भी पुलिस ऑफिसर, जो भी डॉक्टर, जो भी लॉयर इस तरह की अपनी वो अंदर जनरेट कर पाएगा, यू विल स्टैंड आउट.
Mom, up till now, everything has intrigued me and inspired me and thrilled for aspiring to be an IPS officer. So, what advice would you give to someone who is aspiring to be a UPSC aspirant or is preparing for it and hoping to enter the law enforcement field?
Well, though it is still a largely male-dominated force, I will just say that it's one of the finest services that you can enter, for the reason that in the last 24 years, I have been able to help people out and give immediate justice. Immediately, you can put a smile on somebody's face. You see, because for an IS officer, he'd probably build a bridge and he may not be able to connect. People who will benefit of the bridge will not be able to meet the guy who is behind it. But for us, it is very easy. Victims walk to us when they're in immediate danger and we can actually rescue them. So that, you can put a smile on the victim's face immediately. You can also show them give them a sense of justice कि भी अच्छा ठीक है, इस बंदे ने आपको छेड़ा, इस बंदे ने आपका देखा, इसको हम भी putting him behind the bars. So that aspect that you are able to respond to somebody so quickly, it gives you a different kind of a feeling. And you don't need another agency to deliver. It's your agency yourself, you can deliver. So that is really important. Because नहीं तो क्या होता है ना कि अगर आप सपोज रेवेन्यू में हैं या इनकम टैक्स इंस्पेक्टर हैं, तो आप रेड वेड कर रहे हो, सब कर रहे हैं, बट वो फायदा किसको जा रहा है, नुकसान किसको हो रहा है, वो मतलब मजा नहीं आ रहा है. दैट पर्सन इज नॉट गेटिंग happy about it. Similarly, in case of an IAS officer, वो bridges build करेंगे, बड़े बड़े schemes चलाएंगे, लेकिन उसका जो last person होगा वो भी बहुत हद तक मतलब हमारे जैसा ही है IAS का, बट स्टिल वो जो एक लार्जर पर्सपेक्टिव होता है ना, हम 1-to-1 विक्टिम से आई टू आई में देख के कनेक्ट करते हैं, एंड दैट इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट व्हेन यू आर, एंड आई थिंक वो कनेक्ट करके यू आर बेसिकली गिविंग देम गॉड्स मैसेज कि भाई डोंट वरी, यू विल बी टेकन केयर ऑफ. तो अगर आप श्रद्धा से अपनी जॉब को प्रोफेशनली डील कर रहे हैं, तो आई थिंक इस जॉब में बहुत कुछ है आपको देने के लिए. you get a lot of fame, you get a lot of izzat, you get people respect you. People may not be able to come and say thank you to you, but in their hearts they will bless you. Okay, oh my God, thank you. I met that police officer who was good. So I think that is in itself a very good feeling about the job. And I've been able to have a very good feeling about my job. I've made very good friends because I've been in this job, and made me doctors, made me lawyers, all because we were all professional. So I think that is, and we all wanted to help people out.
Personally, I'm very driven after this whole conversation that I had with you today. It's been very motivated.
So मैम, जैसा कि अभी आपने बोला कि पुलिस इज अ काफी मेल डोमिनेटेड फील्ड, and you being a female, so how do you overcome all these challenges and problems that you have to face because of being a female, or are there even any problems that you have to face?
See, yeah, problems you have to face, but you know what? That is about your attitude. So I always had this attitude कि मेरा जितना आसमान है मुझे उतना ही मिलेगा और मुझे अपने आसमान में अच्छा काम करना है. So it's like if you're very clear about what your piece of pie is, you're happy. So like for example, when we were doing training, we could not do chin-ups. Okay, and all the guys could do chin-ups, or maybe we would go just half the rope and we would not be able to go up the rope. So ठीक है, but there was an area where we could do better than boys. So there we would do better than boys. So it's the whole, you have to see a thing holistically. कि ठीक है, कुछ चीज़ों में आप अच्छे होते हैं, like women are more sensitive, or they are more multitasking, where a men will be like one time at one point in time, or something like that. तो कहीं ना कहीं आप अपने को कॉम्पनसेट करके जो आपको की कमी होती है वो कॉम्पनसेट करते हैं, या वो दूसरों की कमी की जगह आप अपनी स्मार्टनेस दिखा के उससे बेटर परफॉर्म करते हैं. वो तो एक एस्पेक्ट हो गया. दूसरा एस्पेक्ट कि हाँ, you face a lot of problems because of you being a woman. You have those 5 days in a month where you're uncomfortable. You also have similar issues like, people still don't want to accept, because a lot of our junior colleagues come from, areas which have a high patriarchy, issues. So they don't accept female bosses very easily. So they keep throwing challenges at you. ठीक है. So when you aspire to come to this job, you already have this in your mind कि you're an ambitious woman, you are you want to dare everybody and everything, you want to take up challenges. So it is part of the entire gamut of your personality, where you don't every time have to be, like I said, you don't have to be macho every time. It's your inner steel which should show. So there are times when you have to take a very, very tough stand, and you can do it in a very subtle manner by just making one statement. हर बार गाली दे के थप्पड़ मार के आप अपना मैचोइज्म नहीं दिखाते हो. तो वो जो एस्पेक्ट है ना, वो आपको ध्यान रखना पड़ता है. एंड मे बी वो इट कम्स विद एज, इट कम्स विद मैच्योरिटी. The other aspect is that in terms of women working in a male-dominated force, you sometimes have to feel that certain areas are blocked for you, and certain areas are only because men they have a boardroom chat, they have a bathroom chat, they will have a backdoor alley which they will all pat each other's back. In a meeting, they will help each other out, support each other, whereas women stay in their cocoons, or they will not. So I think it's a high time, when there are more women now coming in so many other fields, like for example, in lawyers and in police and in other places where they were more, dominated by men. I think it's high time that women also start doing, hand-holding and networking and helping each other out, and stop feeling insecure about the fact that, if I help the woman, she will climb on my back and she will do that. Because I feel like I have also one daughter. When I advise her, I say one thing: it is not the women that you should feel challenged about. You should feel that it is some boys' post you are taking. And it is the boys in the world that you have to fear, or you have to say ki, not fear, but you have to understand that it is the boys who are real threat or challenge for you, because he's taller, he's stronger, he's sometimes able to work more than hours than you are, doesn't have a family responsibility, or even has, then doesn't have to go and think like a housewife at home. So a lot of things, for women, there are times in life, when she will bear a child, and the boss will look at her differently. She can't ask for more salary despite being more competent, because she's a woman, and looked at it in a different perspective. So these aspects will always be there. But the good part is that in the government service, it does not happen like that. We have got childcare leave. We have a lot of facilities. We also have parity in pay. So all these issues are not there. There can be instances when your boss feels कि नहीं यार लड़की है, but in my case it has always been the opposite. I have been given very tough assignments. Like I was posted in Outer. It was the wild west of Delhi, almost 2/3 at that point of time in 2010 of Delhi in terms of area, and every day there used to be some serious thing happening. But I handled that beautifully, and it's one of my most memorable postings I've had in Outer. Now this area, Eastern Range, all of you know, is called the Patal Lok of Delhi. So being the Jamna Par, so I now head the Eastern Range. So I mean, it's how you handle it. As you can see in the board, I'm the only woman there. So so it's like how you handle it is how you take on everything. And I think that once you decide to come to IPS as a service, you've got to have the determination and the attitude. You can't back out on बीच में आप फिर सड्डे नहीं बन सकते फिर. You have to then show your mettle every time, whatever you do. And it can also be done with a lot of style and aplomb. You don't have to be crass. Then the moment that understanding comes, आपकी स्मार्ट प्रेजेंटेशन ही कई बार अप्रिशिएट हो जाती है. कई बार आपका बोलने का तरीका, हाउ यू हैंडल योर सेल्फ विद योर सॉफ्ट स्किल्स, विच प्रॉबेबली बॉयज विल lack or need a particular level to reach, they will all matter. So these things, I think wherever you can make a mark and you can push yourself, वो करना चाहिए अपने आप. I think now anyway we are very lucky. We are in an environment and world where women are respected, colleagues are respected. Still, there will be some, sexual harassment at workplace or something else. But we are adept of handling it. There are such good laws available. So I think everything is favoring the women. We all need to understand that we don't need to, have more than 50%, but only the share which we deserve and we are due. Only that much. And there are so many nice men, because I have some nice men in my life who made sure that I'm here. So I always feel and I always say that, may God, this tribe, be blessed and be grow in, number. Because the more nicer men you'll have, the nicer brothers and, sisters, the acceptability of a woman in power, it increases. So even if they have a boss or they have a colleague, they start looking at मेरी बहन भी तो ये कर रही है, मेरी बीवी भी तो कर रही है ये job, so she can always, so that acceptability increases. So slowly, so starting from Kiran Bedi ma'am to what we have reached now, things have improved, and I think it is on the improvement side only that we are moving towards. Look at it from the challenge which women started when they did not even have voting rights. तो अगर उस लड़ाई को देखो तो हम बहुत आगे आ गए हैं.
And ma'am, an extension to this question only, what's your take on menstrual leaves? Because I believe uske baare mein kafi debates chali hai ki like should they be granted or they shouldn't be granted, etc.
I've never needed it, though I've had some rough patches and rough times. Normal medical leave जो आपको चाहिए तो वो आपको मिल ही जाती है, and usually all of us notice the first 2-3 days which are more traumatic. तो अगर वो आप handle कर लेते हैं तो आप even as kids you're handling when you're giving exams and in college. So what's the deal? मतलब I think it's just a little bit too much that you're asking. Fine, I mean like childcare leave when something is genuine because this is really required for a woman's health. I don't think this is. In fact, I feel that at one point in time when I was doing more exercises or I was doing more hard work, physical hard work, I was in fact having better menstrual cycles. So somehow for me, I have realized personally that you see, basically it is how your your hormones will react and how your body responds to hormonal changes in your body. So the more physical activity that you're doing, and it sometimes helps. Yes, there can be sometimes very bad situations for women, but that can be medically handled, or that can be you can take a 2 or 3 days leave, which everybody doesn't mind. Now making it mandatory, I think that is something which is like I'm not open to it, right? It should be flexible, yeah.
Ma'am, as you have said, that law of the land is pro-woman. It shelters women, the child, the old. So, ma'am, as in time has come, there are a lot of false cases that have been increasing. So, ma'am, what's your take on that?
See, it is like what you treat as false cases. Like not in every aspect there can be a false case, but in terms of the dowry and all aspect, if you think that that case is happening, then see that's how the law grows. Then law also sees the the changes in law which happened because it sees the good and the bad together. So when they see the false cases, and even though they are false and everybody understands it, so judge की भी जिंदगी में कोई एक family member होगा जिसके साथ गलत हो रहा होगा, तो वो accordingly the law change होगा. So what I'm saying is that it is part of a society growing and responding to a particular law. लॉ का कितना मिसयूज होता है वो आप पे और हम पे भी निर्भर करता है. हम कितना अलाउ करते हैं विक्टिम को उसको यूज करने के लिए. तो वी आर पार्ट ऑफ द सोसाइटी एंड वी आर ओनली encouraging this or discouraging this. बट मेरा सिर्फ ये टेक है कि एक ना जिस तरह से लॉ इवॉल्व करता है ओवर ए पीरियड ऑफ टाइम, जो मकॉले ने उस टाइम जो लॉ बना दिया वो तो बेस था, उसके बाद जिस तरह से लॉ इवॉल्व करता है वो इन केसेस से भी अफेक्ट होता है. So there are various judgments which have, put brakes on the misuse of law. So you all must be knowing. So there are, like, for example, arrests are not mandatory, or arrest if mandatory has to be done with the consent of a senior officer. So the misuse is identified and it is checked by way of maybe these orders or maybe a new act coming. That's how I think the law will evolve.
तो मैम जैसे कि एक टीवी सीरीज है काफी पॉपुलर नेटफ्लिक्स पे, मनी हाइस्ट करके, आई एम नॉट श्योर. तो लाइक उसमें जैसे दिखाया था उन्होंने बैंक ऑफ स्पेन आई बिलीव वो किया था, लूट किया था. सो लाइक वो काफी ड्रामेटिक एंड लाइक वो ऑब्वियसली शो पर्पसेस के लिए. तो मैम मेरा क्वेश्चन ये है कि लाइक हाउ एक्यूरेट इज द डिपिक्शन इन द मूवीज एंड ऑल. हाउ लाइक जैसे आपका केस था डिफेंस कॉलोनी बैंक हाइस्ट का, 5.25 CR की वो हाइस्ट थी. तो क्या लाइक डिफरेंसेस है या क्या सिमिलैरिटीज है एक्चुअली इन मूवी, टीवी शोज और रियल लाइफ में?
So मैंने मनी हाइस्ट तो नहीं देखी, बट मैंने और चीजें हैं, मैंने बाकी हाइस्ट देखी हैं. आई एम फॉन्ड ऑफ सच मूवीज. तो जैसे वो 11 Ocean's 11 है ना. So there are other movies also. I'm not recollecting the names, but there are a lot of others which have heists in it. So you see, they're definitely more sensationalized. The money heist that we had was a bank van heist. So the reconnaissance that they did was very perfect. They found a patch where this van would go and can be easily cornered, and it will be a time of the day when there will be low number of people, less number of people on the road. So those kind of things they're done, but they got a little fidgety because they never expected the guard to react, and because the guard reacted they had to shoot him and then they had to quickly run away. So वो कुछ चीजें उनसे गलत हुई, कुछ सही हुई. बट इशू ये था कि उनकी जो बैंक वैन हाइस्ट थी उनके हिसाब से परफेक्ट थी. वो अगर हमें 1.5 day में नहीं मिलते तो गॉन. फिर तो मतलब they would have all gone into different places because they were all small time. One of them was a pickpocket, so he had never seen that amount of cash. So when he opened the box and they started distributing, he fainted because he's never seen so much of cash. So very interesting, but finally when we got all of them and we got all the money, the good part was that we were able to recover about nearly 90%. So that was something that I want to pat my back on, and the kind of documentation that we did in terms of their those years, and the kind of efforts they had made to change their residences and not get caught, and stay away from this thing, how they'd got the guns, everything we had in place. So it was a very good case, and we also had a Makoka later on, so as a crime syndicate, and we made sure that they were behind bars. So the similarity is not that much, but sensationalism, because it was bang on in death call in the middle of the day, and it was a daylight kind of a robbery, so it was very sensational. But not sensational from the point of view of like making a hole in the bank building and something like that, or so that part was not there. But it was very sensational, interesting.
Does anyone have any more questions? Ma'am, what's one message or any kind of message that you would like to give our audience?
Message तो बस यही दूंगी, क्योंकि you're all young and you're all getting into the the legal side of the world. My only thing is I think you have the whole world in your hand. not always you will be able to side the correct people, but at least be fair to the law. And your ethics should be in your place. To a large extent, if you are polite, if you are organized, if you are meticulous in your job, and you have empathy with your victims, I think to a large extent you will be able to deliver. And इन चीज़ों से long run में satisfaction बहुत होता है. Maybe you may make less money, you may not become very quickly rich, but eventually you will be a happier person, a more contented person, because it's like goodwill, your impressions about what kind of a quality input you can give. All these things add to becoming a more credible lawyer or a credible officer. So that is something which I think you should imbibe and take away from this, because I think I've spent 24 years and I've just tried to make sure that I keep my lines straight, and that really helps, because somehow I feel that when God, you can't choose your parents, you can't choose the society where you live, or the place where, when God gives these opportunities, it's probably He has a higher expectation out of you. तो कहीं ना कहीं आपको भगवान की भी वो इच्छा का सम्मान करना चाहिए, and you should ensure that you will be able to give back to the society what you got as a gift from God. So I think that you should do, and in bringing happiness in people's lives, that's what you should be your aim.
Thank you. I think this brings us to the end of the podcast. Thank you so much, ma'am, for sharing your words of wisdom. It's been an honor for sharing this space with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.